All right, it is time for the top 10 books I read in 2016. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I thought I would share my top 10 books of the year. Normally, I actually don't do top 10 of the year lists, but when I was researching for my reading wrap up and reflection, I thought I would just, on a lark, I just sort of thought I would check how many books I rated 10 out of 10. Guess how many there were? There were 10. When I realized that, I'm like, I should do a video. I should just do a video on this. And it's funny because like on Goodreads, he only has 5 stars. So I have lots more 5-star books. I think I have about 35 5-star books out of 150. Just if you're like, wow, that's a lot. It's like, that's, you know, well, it is a fair amount. It's 17%. Anyway, I'm allowed to rate things whatever I want. I think a majority of my books are actually 4-star ratings. I really wish there were half stars. One day, Goodreads. Anyway, but I have 10 books that I rated 10 out of 10 because on my spreadsheet I rate them out of 10, and including half stars. So there's 9.5 and not 2.25. Don't go that far, but there's 10 of them. Let's get to them. The first one is Syllabus by Lynda Barry. I adore this book so much. If you're not familiar with Lynda Barry's a comic book artist, a writer, and a teacher. And this is amazing. That's actually one of the great exercises she shares, this daily diary idea. And this book is really a syllabus for the class that she teaches. And it includes all kinds of exercises, of things to do, way to gather images, way to how to think, how to understand what imagery is. And then this is actually student work that she's sharing from the exercises. I played along with a lot of this book, and I keep a composition book myself and still do a lot of the exercises from this, and I find it an absolutely wonderful way to capture my day, to jot things down, to notice what I'm noticing, and to just pick up on strange things, and also to just stretch, what you think you can do in terms of documenting your day and trying to capture a moment in the day. And when you're using a composition book and there's so many pages and you just do it all the time, it's sort of like puts aside the sort of heaviness of like needing to get it right, and you just do it. And I have enjoyed doing it. And I actually started this in the previous year, so I've been actually keeping composition books I think for a year and a half now, and I have a huge, like on my shelf, I have just like, it's really awesome. I love it. Anyway, she's so inspiring. I love her. And she also has a Tumblr. I think it's called The Nearsighted Monkey, and she puts up wild exercises and things to think about there, and I adore that. I adore that. Next up, oh no, not that yet. First up, we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and I don't have any visual for this because I read it on my Kobo. This is a fantasy. I think different people classify it in different ways, whether or not you consider it a historical, sort of like steampunk but magic, or fantasy, or I don't know what people, period piece. I don't know what people just, for me, I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. Set turn of the century and follows the circus, and also follows concurrently 2 different people who are sort of in training in sort of magical ways. And for me, I actually, like, although I guess I put this in sort of like in magical realism, because in a lot of the stuff that goes on, I just believe it or want to believe. I want to believe, not an X-Files way, like in more like a Harry Potter way. And yeah, lots of magic, wonderful, wonderful book, and a great sentiment, and great, really got me to the heart. All of these got to my heart. All of them. That is definitely, I guess that's what makes it a 10 out of 10 for me. Next up, we have An Improvised Life by Arkin. This is a memoir, and this one I loved so much. One of the wonderful things about it is I could hear his voice in my head as I read the book. Not always. It would just sort of pop up when it was sort of like iconically, like felt like a phrase that he would use. All of the phrases I'm sure he would use because he wrote the book. And yeah, I loved it. And one of the things I really super appreciated about this book is he talks a lot about his journey as an actor. And he talks about how his life changed, like how his perspective on things changed. He was always like continued to be drawn to acting, but he saw things differently. And sometimes it took vast periods of time before having those moments where you have a change in your heart or in your mind, but still be interested in the same thing. And that really, really resonated with me. And I really appreciated that. And he's just, he's got great stories and just wonderful way of writing. And I instantly enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that I read it. So that was awesome. The next one up, again, no visual, I have is The Quest for Erin by H.P. Lovecraft, and this is a short story, and I adored it. It really reminded me of the power of storytelling, and I could really see this one as like a storytelling teller telling you a story, like listening to a story. I'm not great at listening to stories. I wanted to illustrate it as a project, like it resonated with me, the message of it, the I don't want to say anything more because I highly encourage people to read it. And Lovecraft stuff is public domain, so it is available out there, and I'll try and find a link for that. But wow, very powerful, and it's just so wonderful, especially since I've been reading, lots of Lovecraft in the past 2 years, and like just every once in a while, there's just like one that just zings you, and that was the one that did. So there you go. Next up, Come Thou Tortoise by Jessica Grant. I love this book so much. I love this book so much. It's a Canadian novel. I didn't read the description. My sister Jamie recommended it to me, and I just read it on that, and I would highly recommend just reading it. Not that descriptions are misleading, but I feel like there's a couple of sort of different interpretations on some of the characters in the book, and I think it's just worth just diving in and reading. And yeah, I did a separate review. I could just gush about that, but instead of doing that, I just loved it. I could say that about all these books, and I will say that about all of these books. Oh, and the next one, here it is. The next one is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman in his Dark Material series, and I love this. I adore this book, and it was so great to read it, and it will pop up again. So yeah, but yeah, definitely 10 out of 10. Again, it's not unlike the Night Circus. It kind of feels like it's fantasy, but I'm like, I wish it was reality. So there you go. That's another thing that makes something a 10 out of 10 for Shannon. And next up, in reality, another memoir, and that is Everyday Matters by Danny Gregory. And this is an illustrated memoir journal. Not journal, memoir. And it is just absolutely amazing. I found it very inspiring. I really savored it. It's at a time that was a challenging time for him, but also a time that he was getting back into drawing. So I really it was just sort of like perfect book at perfect time, and it really been like using my composition book and working towards like trying to do this sort of illustrated, doing the illustrations for the covers of the books and stuff like that. Drawing and art is just really actually been very, very powerful this year, and this idea of illustrating your daily life really appeals to me. And I did a recent sketchbook flip through where I share some of the ones that I have done recently, and in and around that time and after. So definitely had strong impact, and he's just wonderful. My sister Jamie interviewed him earlier in the year, and he's so inspiring. Yeah, good stuff. Next up, more Canadian fiction with The Diviners by Margaret Lawrence. I adored this book. This one took me a long time to get through. I started it back when I was in high school, and when I read it this year, I just started back at the beginning again. It had been that long that you just got to go to the beginning. Night Circus I left on the shelf for like 3 years, and it could just pop back in, but not this. This was longer than 3 years. So anyway, I love this book. I really, really felt for the main character, Morag. It's really, I feel like a lot of Canadian fiction feels like it is a person's story, and it feels like it's just about life. And that's what I took this one as. It's not a biography or anything like that, but it feels like life. And it also, but it was also, and it was also very like heartbreaking and challenging, and life can be like that. And I really loved it. I just loved it, and I'm so glad that I read it. Oh my goodness. Next up, Or a tragedy. King Lear by William Shakespeare. Oh, it was so good to get back into Shakespeare this year. I read 10 plays, and this was the first time read, and I loved it. I read it for the slowathon, and I actually read it aloud in a weekend and really appreciated it and really felt like I understood it a lot better for reading it in that format. I still want to watch, the CBC has on their app that you can watch a Stratford production starring Colm Feore as King Lear, and I'm really looking forward to enjoying that. And it's been a couple months since I've read this, so I gotta get on that. But wow, very powerful, amazing story. Just wow, I like, and reminded me that I like the tragedies with Shakespeare. I do. I think the tragedies are my favorite. Speaking kind of darkish, next up, the complete poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, and this one I bought on a bit of a lark. I bought it to get to free shipping, and then decided to read it in October because it's Edgar Allan Poe. And also I was really busy that month, so reading poetry really worked out because I could just read 1 or 2 a day, which is definitely my preferred way of reading poetry. And it got me inspired to check out more poetry. So it was sort of like win, win, win. All good. Loved it. Loved it so much. And last but not least, certainly not least, you can't call him the least, Winnie the Pooh. I loved Winnie the Pooh so much. It reminded me that I do like to read children's fiction every once in a while, and there's just a tenderness and a heartfeltness and sort of like everything, like misadventure with his friends, but everything's fine. Everything's fine. And there was a calmness to that I really appreciated. And I just love the character of Pooh Bear. I really do. Really do. I did review this individually as I did for many of these titles, and I will put links below for them, but those are my top 10. And I do have some honorable mentions that are kind of cheats. And what I did was I put aside anything that was a reread, because I had already rated it 10, so it didn't really fall into the new 10. But still loved, and that includes Macbeth by Shakespeare. It includes Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets. I should go that way. And it includes the Golden Compass, technically, because I had read the Golden Compass before, but I had not read the entirety of the series, and this year I finished his Dark Materials. So when I include the Golden Compass here, it's kind of a cheat because I would give the series 10 out of 10, but I didn't give all the books 10 out of 10, and I know that math doesn't work, and I don't care. I don't care. It's my own math. But it has been a great reading year. There are so many books that I just absolutely adored, including these, and including many that I rated 9.5, of which there are many. As I said, my Goodreads has 35 out of 150 books as 5 out of 5. So that's a high percentage, I think, and I think that's a good thing. I'm totally cool with that. I think that means I'm making really good choices and having really good reading experiences, and that's all good. That is all good. So it was a great year. I hope you had a great reading year. I'd love to hear what your best, favorite, most enjoyed book of the year is, or if you have a list somewhere, feel free to link it and I will check it out. And that is it for 2016 for me. Last video, I promise, for the year. Definitely will have more videos next year. Looking forward to 2017. I hope you are too, and I will see you then. Have a happy and safe new year. Take care, folks.